It is 5:30. We'll call the OnPoint July board meeting to order. We'll all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin our meeting in earnest, I would like to take a chairman's privilege here to call for a moment of silence for the loss of life and injury over the weekend in Pennsylvania. Thank you. It brings back to reminding myself as a county commissioner and running for office that candidates at any level of government have a duty. And you're looking at going and representing people in an office and providing services, making sure that government works, that people's rights are protected. And those types of things, when you are running for office, we have to go and hold ourselves to a higher standard. And because we are examples to the rest of our community. And in doing that, we need to watch how we do things, what we say, and how we relate to everyone that we come in contact with. This young man that tragically tried to do this, we need to be watching for our fellow citizens here, so we can reach out and take and make them understand that there is help, that there is ways forward without resorting to violence. And with our conduct, we need to go and be civilized and watch what we say and conduct ourselves the way we would like to be treated back. Thus implying the golden rule. With that said, and appreciate the silence and respect for those, we'll go ahead and call the roll. Kimberly Bartnick has an excused absence. Kimberly Mr. Whitty, is it appropriate to give medical information during this meeting or not?
She was consented to, was it not?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can read the text, but she said.
Yes, please. She has an excused absence. She had a stroke and she will try to be with us next month. Pam Brenner is excused. She had a family member that needed to have her. Ben Brookhouse is at an educational Western Michigan in an excused absence. He notified me and I forwarded on to Megan. Jessica Castaneda.
Here.
Castaneda.
Nada.
Yeah, with a.
I'm working on it. Mark DeYoung. Here. Gail Dugan is here. Jane Farrell.
Here.
Beth Johnson.
Here.
Alice Kelsey.
Here.
Dr. Robin Clay.
Here.
Karen Stratton is excused. And Pastor Craig Van Beek.
Here.
We have a quorum. Next on the agenda is provision for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to, that is present in the meeting room, like to address the board? OnPoint board at this time? Please raise your hand.
With regard to agenda items only, is that correct? Please.
That's public comment. If you would like to address the board at this time.
I don't want to violate the rules. It says agenda items only.
Well,
Am I on the agenda? I don't want to break the rule. I can wait. I got time to be here till later on if you want, it's up to you.
okay. Well, I think it would be nice that you see how this board operates.
I'm happy to do that.
All right. Thank you very much for your patience. Second call for any comment on the agenda. Megan, is there anyone online?
Anyone online that would like to address the board regarding the agenda?
Thank you. We'll close the provision for public comment at this time. Approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a support for that motion to approve the agenda?
Support.
All in favor of that, say yes. Yes. Agenda is approved. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there any piece of the consent agenda that any member would like to remove for in-depth consideration? Seeing none. Motion to approve consent agenda? Anyone?
So move.
So moved by Dr. Clay. Support?
Support.
Support by Jane. All in favor of that motion, say yes.
Yeah.
All opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. We are now on to program committee report.
Yes.
Alice, you have the floor.
We had a presentation by Angel Hopkins for the medication clinic services, and also a presentation on occupational therapy by Rebecca and Brandon, and they have an intern from Western. Her name's Sawyer, I can't remember last. Just quite a bit of information about how things have changed with CCBHC as far as, especially with the med clinic. I believe it was right around 2,000 more clients this year than last. And so that was pretty much it. And there wasn't a lot of other reports because because of the vacancies in our staff. So, but Mark assures us everything is running smoothly.
We're working through these different vacancies and expeditiously. So thank you very much for your report. Is there any questions for the program committee here? Hearing none, thank you very much for your report this night. Recipient rights is, no, next on the agenda is finance committee. Chairman Johnson.
All right, thank you. How about if we jump to page 6 and pay the bills? And then I can go into the financials. But I move to recommend that the OnPoint board approve the June 2024 disbursements totaling $2,568,084 and $84.91, excuse me.
Do I have a support for that motion?
Support.
Support by Jessica Castaneda. Did I get it right then?
Castañeda.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Keep saying. You'll get it.
This will be a roll call. Pastor Van Beek,
Yes.
Dr. Clay,
Yes.
Alice Kelsey,
Yes.
Beth Johnson,
Yes.
Jane Farrell,
Yes.
Gail Dugan says yes, Mark DeYoung. Yes. And Jessica Castaneda.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Okay, just going back one page, page 5 with the administrative report, I think a couple of things about the security of cybersecurity and information technology. Andre has been purchasing upgraded computers to help with the new EMR, electronic medical record system coming in. So for the next month, 2 months, that's gonna be a big push to get them out to the employees and get ready for that new EMR. The security report, couple of things we're doing right off the bat is going to a two-factor authentication process. And we are going to be looking at a third party to kind of be the backup to the county for cybersecurity. There's been a lot of spam mail and so forth. So we don't talk a lot about technology, but it's good to know we're on top of it. So anybody have any questions about that? Just that we're working on it and, all right. Moving on to the financials then, I'm on page 9. And as Andre said in committee, this is gonna be basically the same thing you heard last month. Because it was pretty much another good month and everything was running smooth. But on page 9, if you go down to the end of the Medicaid subtotal on the far right, the 1.4 million, that's expected to go back to the LRE. And then the general fund on the far right column, down on the bottom, the 463,000 is planning to go back to the state. And the number right above it, the CCDHC subtotal at 1.3 million is doing nicely. And that's basically because there's a lot more daily visits to the clinic than what was expected. Nikki mentioned in committee that the RA grant has been exhausted and that we're kind of holding our general fund as is to help cover other CCDHC expenses if necessary. If you want more information, ask Andrea, because I don't know any more than that. Moving on to page 10 on our, basically our balance sheet. Once again, for May of 2024, that very first one, cash and cash equivalents is at 5.5. Basically, it's the CCDHC and the Medicaid capitation for that. 2 numbers down, due from other governmental units, the 1.9, that's just the timing of the LRE payments coming in to us. Down in the liabilities, due to other government units, I just talked about giving over $1 million back to the LRE and the general fund back to the state. That's where that 2.8 million comes in under the liabilities. We did just settle for fiscal year 2021 for 142,000, and that's in there too. So, bottom line, down at the net position of unrestricted, that 929,000, second to the last number is the CCDHC dollars that are coming in. So our debt position is very strong at 4.4. As for expenses on page 11, pretty much a copy of last month with a couple of exceptions. We are 2/3 of the way through the year, fiscal year. And so we should be right around 66.67%. And if you look at the Healthy Michigan capitation, it's at 72.28. We're spending a little bit more. That's because the enrollment is down and our revenue is down. The nice part of the 43% of the budget down at the grants and earned contracts, we can't collect that grant money until we actually perform a service or do something. And due to staffing limitations, we haven't been able to do a few things. So it's there when we're ready to use it, which is a good thing. As for operating expenses, two big budget items that were amended were salaries and wages, and they're right at 62% roughly. Before the amendment, it was much lower, and we brought that into line. And then the contractual services, we have increased a bit because of the staffing issues. Once again, with supplies and materials and miscellaneous expenses, that ties into the grants that if we haven't done the service or program, we can't expense it out. So change in net position, down third from the bottom. We're at 1.7 million, which is a very healthy number. Ending net position is still at 4.4. The only dampening or damper to this, is that the CCDHC rates that we're using now will probably get readjusted, and they'll reduce them in the next year. Okay. He's out there. I'm looking at him like, I can't see what you're saying. But, that is it. Andre, do you have anything to add? So pretty solid, and the generator is installed. It's out back if you want to go look at it. So,
Is it working?
shut off the lights and find out what.
Actually, there is a gas pressure problem that we're in the process of fixing. The gas pressure isn't high enough to operate it efficiently. So we are in the process of getting that looked at, resolved, and solved. So
Part of that is we bought a larger than necessary generator. So if we expand or have more things going on, we have the power to back it up.
or need, or air conditioning, or things of that nature.
So that concludes the finance committee report.
Is there any questions for the finance committee chair? Yes, Alex.
I'm just, remind me, how often do we pay the loan payment? This 21,000, that's the USDA loan, right?
That's once a month.
Is it a monthly?
Monthly.
Okay.
Yes. Is there any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much for your report this evening. The recipient rights report is going to be next month when Glenn is back. For any updates, unless, no. Kelsey, is there anything that you'd like to comment on, or everything's going smooth? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is the LRE update. We have with us Mary Dumas this evening. Thank you very much for being here with us. You have the
Thank you.
floor.
Thank you, Gail. It's nice to be here again. I wish I was there in person. I'm just trying to have a little bit of time in northern Michigan with my family this summer. So I'm up north. So I wanted to let you guys know that the state opiate response, which we call the SOAR grant, this is our fourth round of that. We received the funds. They've been allocated to the LRE. We have sent that out to all of our providers for prevention, SUD prevention and treatment. And we're asking for the work plans for fiscal year 25. We need them back by the end of the month. It is about $1 million less than what we've been receiving in the past, but just as an update for all of you, we are grateful to have that money, and the work plans will be coming in for approval. I want to really say thank you to the Allegan OnPoint staff for many things, but collaboration on the CMH contract, as well as the Health Services Advisory Group audits or reviews that we've been going through. It's been really nice to collaborate with the staff. And I know that staffing is short right now at OnPoint, but everybody is rolling up their sleeves and trying to cover for each other. And we truly, truly appreciate that. Not every CMH is as friendly as OnPoint to the LRE, and so we just really want to make sure that the board realizes how hard they're working and how much we appreciate that collaboration. I want to just remind everybody next week is the LRE board meeting. For any of you that would like to join online or in person, we would love to have you. It's held at the Innovation Hub in Muskegon. Or you can join online, as I mentioned. We have completed our network adequacy report, and that will be part of our summary going to the board of directors at our board meeting. If that's something of interest to you, you can get the packet offline and you can read it. You can send questions with Alice or Mark or Craig or Jim Story. So if you have any questions or concerns or anything else, feel free to send them in with your representatives, or obviously Mark can always handle them as far as getting us the messages. And that's all I have. If there's anything else, I'm more than willing to answer questions.
Is there any questions from the board here tonight for Air Mary? Thank you very much for your report this evening, Mary, and we enjoy seeing you and having you participate in our meetings with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, I have my report here to give. The executive committee met on Friday, the 12th. We went through several things. First off, we added the audit reports. Everyone got 2 of them. One is for compliance with the federal awards, which is this one. And then the other one is the report on compliance for the mental health services that we render. And they both come back with clean audits. And is there any other things that you would like to mention on that as to the auditors' questions on that, Mark?
Sorry with you, Mr. Chairman, I'll refer to Andre, our Chief Administrative Officer. It's all right. Anything you want to add?
Oh, they were clean. They were happy with that. No question there, when it comes back clean from the auditor. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we also have compliance report from Mr. Whitty because Mrs. Bennett was on away for the day. She had his written update in the board packet and answered questions for us. The CARP, we have looked at that. That's the things that are rolling along with that, with the conflict-free access and planning. We're working through that. Right now it's on hold, but MDHS is considering all impact from all of the people and entities that have stepped up to the plate and said, this is not going to work for rural communities in any way, shape, or form. We reviewed the key tasks for our board. We are now pretty well squared away and up to date. We reviewed the board packet for any things that would be out of the extraordinary. We were given a staffing update as to the vacancies that we have. We have 2 people in queues to be hired for 2 of them. And then we're waiting on the other one to how her health progresses. We also had the IT security assessment report, which you heard a little bit about during finance. We also heard about the trends that OnPoint is looking at. This will be rolled into our needs assessment on a yearly basis. And the adjacent property that has come up and that we have seen, we sort of put our finger in the water. I put my finger in the water with the executive board to see where they would think of OnPoint taking over and operating this and keeping the pharmacy open, or the needs of the organization to go forward with partitioning off part of the building. The rest of the board, the executive committee, was fine with putting some staff time in looking and watching for opportunities that might present themselves with the property next door. Same way with across the street, with different areas that have been mothballed. We're looking for opportunities there to extend the services of OnPoint to the people that we need to serve here on a local basis and make it easy for them, as much as possible. So with that, is there any questions for me as the chair of the board? Let me off easy tonight. Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Whitty, that is on to your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report is in your packet starting on page 22. We did spend a little bit of time talking about in the executive committee as well, the performance of our organization related to the most recent LRE site visit and the numerous plans of correction due to the standard of 100% that we needed to meet in order to avoid that. So we have a massive plan of correction, some of which include duplicate items, so it's not so difficult, but planning to have that in by the end of this month. And so far that's going well. We've already talked a little bit about the leadership decisions, hiring pieces, so that's nothing more to go into right now on that. I will say, just as a quick follow-up on the agency section here, we have a meeting later this week with the individual who provided public comment last month. So hope to have better communication about those issues later this week. On the second section related to the board, we did talk in some detail with the executive committee about the kind of the blow by blow that's happening around this conflict-free access and planning requirement, including back and forth between the association and this department over the standards that the federal government is posing, as well as looking at some of the language that the state has provided back to the feds as to how they're going to implement. And some of it is about feeling like the state has sometimes offered more than what was required by the state or by the feds. And also feeling like some of the items that have been put forward, much as you said in your resolution, don't really comport with the mental health code or prior waivers. So I would say we're in a state of some dispute. Where it starts to feel a little funny is that, we receive invitations for staff to go to treatment planning for trainings for different things that are coming down the road. And some of it doesn't make a lot of sense because the very activities that we're being trained in are the ones that we would not be required or allowed to do after the October 1. So the message is go ahead with the training, do the best we can, presume nothing's going to change, it's under consideration. So we're not really sure. Again, our biggest concerns really are that in this community, conflict-free access and planning, if it were indeed a conflict, we would manage. But as it is, we have separate departments handling these things. One arm of the organization are people who are doing treatment planning, and another independent part reviewing and authorizing the care. And at the end of the day, no one stands to benefit by the fact that someone gets or doesn't get a service. Our job is to do person-centered planning, to address the needs of individuals and to meet those with services that are available through the region and through our own agency. And so the idea that we have a conflict is kind of offending in the first place and probably not consistent at all with state law that puts the local community as the arm of the state in working to meet the needs of the public. So for a lot of reasons, I'll get back into my normal shell here and move on. So on the community side, pleased to report that we did have a good meeting yesterday with the staff of the district court, talking a little bit about the use of Public Act 2 funds to support problem-solving courts in Allegheny County, and learned through that indeed we have an application that the circuit court is making with the state to add drug court capabilities in Allegheny County as well. So there may be more opportunities to support that than what we originally presumed. So meeting with or in correspondence with Chris Dulac at the county to begin, parsing that out and seeing how it can be helpful, but that's promising. I think the rest of that is free information. The state budget is detailed, largely copied from the CMHA Association's report to us after the budget was approved by the governor and was agreed to by the legislature. Don't have a whole lot more to say about that, but finally, and most importantly, join me in congratulating Megan on her wedding last month. I'll defer the last page of your packet to the Commissioner DeYoung, if you consent to that.
Commissioner Young, if you would please turn and look at the pictures there, they were given me, allowed me to circulate permission from John Werster. That was his wedding that I attended. He was a former board member and his new bride Amy. And Cowboy was the officiant, and it was supposed to be an outside wedding, and then we got there the third and the fourth, so we quickly adapted and moved it inside. And it was a wonderful celebration, and they are, I don't know if they're still honeymooning or not, but they seem very happy. And so I'm glad to be a part of it.
Mr. Chairman, that completes our report. I'll be open to any questions you might have.
Is there any questions from Mr. Liddy at this time?
Well,
Mrs. Johnson?
going back to number 4 with the PIHP contract,
Yes.
can you, is there any accountability in it?
We have a meeting to review the final language that's been put forward by the region for us. Mary, what's the date on that meeting that's coming up in, is it August?
It was supposed to be Mark August 1st, but we're struggling with that date just for
Okay.
numerous reasons. But if not August 1st, it will be 2 weeks from that date.
Yeah. So I can't answer the question entirely. I will certainly
Is
follow.
it in the draft?
Can you, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask just Ben to give a little bit more detail about what you mean by accountability?
Well, accountability that, financially, people try, all PIHPs, CMHs, whatever, try to stay within the same, I don't know, boundaries, guardrails of, we have done our fiscal responsibility for 5-6 years, and I have seen other partners in the LRE not stay fiscally responsible. And, right now, currently, since April or so, there's one that's 7 million in the hole again. And is there fiscal responsibility and accountability in the draft? How's that?
Well, if I could ask, Mr. Chairman, for Mary to comment, I don't believe you'd find language to that effect in the contract at this point. There is in the operating agreement, it talks about the allocations that exist to each of the CMHs, and I don't know if the language in there specifies that there must be an effort on the part of each CMH to work within the allocation that it's received. But I guess I know there's been an operation, a fair amount of expectation that agencies that are operating outside of those boundaries provide an explanation for either their revenue variations, which is really more of a regional responsibility, or their expense variations, the projections and so forth. So I don't know. The only thing that you would prefer to comment on that, Mary?
I will say that today we did have a meeting with one particular CMH that is outside of the boundaries. There was a lot of discussion about not enough revenue, but LRE has been producing reports to show where utilization management appears to be the problem, and that we have another meeting scheduled in 2 weeks to discuss that. I think it was favorable. I don't think that there is time this year for fiscal remediation to occur with only 2 months left. My greatest concern is if we don't correct what is happening, that it's going to bleed into fiscal year 25. At the end of 25, all partners will have zero access to ISF because there would be no ISF. So I believe today was a very good discussion. I walked away feeling quite positive. We are continuing to focus on identifying where we think corrections, improvements could be made to bring individuals in line. We also have asked questions like what kind of things have occurred to contain cost. At present time, the LRE does not have a list of what things have been done. Have there been hiring freezes? Have there been wage freezes? Have there been provider increase freezes? We have no answers to those questions, but those are questions we have put on the table and that we have requested feedback on. So I think the first hurdle was to get everybody to the table. So now we have a path to begin to communicate and to get some of that information to help that occur. I absolutely think this is something that is correctable. I think there's not a ton of revenue and it's always very, very tight, but I think there is potential with some strong utilization management for that to occur.
Thank you, Mary. So, Mr. Chairman, in response to the question, I would say, I doubt you will find language to your satisfaction as it relates to strict accountability language in the contract at this point. I do think that I was asked a bit about this issue at the county commission meeting in which we presented our annual update last Thursday. And the question was asked about, as the board struggles to, reach a point of effectiveness related to the organization's financial operations. What are some of the things that could be done, that should be done to get closer to that? And one of the things contractual language is one piece. I do believe that the board itself, when the members in that room are wearing the hat of the LRE board member, I do believe that the board members have a tremendous amount of opportunity and responsibility to provide support and direction to the organization itself on how to deal with its members. Now, it's very difficult, obviously, for people to wear two hats at the same time, but that's the nature of what we set up. Those board members of organizations are also, in some cases, board members of the LRE. And yet, it's only through the actions of the collective organization that accountability can really happen. So even if you put language in the contract, it still would need to be enforced. And I think the LRE's board is in the best position to hold, to help its leadership, its hired staff, execute the policies that it adopts that can include stronger accountability for financial performance. So I'm not just suggesting that it's wrong to put language in the contract, but in many ways, there's enough language in the contract now to set the stage for that kind of accountability. But it would be best, I think, if the board itself exercises authority to guide the leadership to make that so. Much as you would be on my case if the situation will reverse.
Yes, Alice.
I was just wanting to make maybe a quick comment that, one of the things that I was frankly shocked to find out once I got on the board is that the LRE really has no authority to say, you will, kind of like a parent, do what I say. We're not a parent at all. We have to get collaboration with all of the members. And it makes it hard for me because I want to just be able to vote and say, look, and just snap my fingers and say, this is ridiculous. But that's why I'm not the chair of the board. And I understand that it is a matter of, working with people. All 5 organizations have to work together on this, and no one has the authority to dictate what happens. So I want to just say that, Craig and Jim and I are doing the best we can, but we sometimes feel the lone voice in the room. So I just wanted to tell you that it isn't that Mary has a stick that she can throw, because it appears that the LRE is designed that does not have that kind of teeth to be able to dictate what happens.
Question would like to go forward is the allocation method that the LRE uses is based on proposed budgets that each one of us submit to the LRE,
No,
or is that allocation made by the state and forward onto the CM?
so in the main, the allocations that are given to each regional CMH are exactly in proportion to the allocations formulas that the state uses to give the funds to the region. The only thing that impacts the amount of money that the CMHs get is the amount of LRE expenses that are needed to come off the top of that before we receive our portion. Now, with that, they do certain functions collectively that we would have to do locally if we had it. So it's not a theft or anything like that. No way. It's really collective activity that would otherwise be borne by the 5 CMHs. So, but it is done in direct proportion to what the state's allocation formula is to the region.
So this is from top to bottom, not from bottom to top. Correct?
Correct.
Okay,
If I follow your example.
all right. Is there any other questions for Mark on his report?
What is the ISF that will disappear?
The ISF stands for Internal Service Fund, which is essentially the risk pool that originally was held at the CMHs, but was combined at the regional level. And it's
Also-
since our rainy day fund.
Okay, and that will run out if nothing happens.
It must maintain we have to work to maintain a positive balance in that.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's the 7%
Yeah,
of monies that are retained at the ISF.
mhm.
Mr. Johnson?
I never do this. You just said that the ISFs used to be maintained at the CMHs.
Yep.
Why aren't they not? Because we have a couple of partners that drain it consistently.
When the state, put together the PHP arrangement that it has now with 10 of them, the rules that they created at that time was that the ISFs must be centralized.
Oh, okay. I just.
That's state rule.
I have one more comment.
Mrs. Clay, were you going to have a question?
No, I just needed that clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Johnson?
Alice and Craig and even Jim Story worked very hard, and my position on this and my feelings are not reflective of what you're doing at all. And I just want to make that clear. But as there has been no parent to Alice, I have watched that there has been no parent for 5, 6 years. And that is why you have a bunch of kids fighting in the sandbox. So anyways, keep up the good work.
Any other questions for Mr. Whitty? Hearing none, we'll go on to the second provision for public comment. I would like to recognize the Honorable Judge Michael Buck at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I did not receive the PPO yet, so is it safe for me to go back? I've been going to a lot of meetings, and last night he indicated with a new judge, he could probably get one against me, so I haven't seen it yet, so it's safe.
No, it's a,
Okay. May I approach and hand out my propaganda?
yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. Unlike the position of President of the United States, I won't look at there, the judicial positions in Michigan do have age limits. And for the last 45 years, I've had the pleasure of working in the courthouse, 21 years as an assistant prosecutor and 24 as your probate judge. And I turned 73 in December as this term comes to an end, and so I'm toast.
Good looking toes.
There's a new expression that's good looking. Does it say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. I'm not crummy though, like some.
No, no, no.
Some of it come up with the expression that I'm a lame buck. And I think that's a bad dad joke, I think.
Thank you very
It
much.
doesn't stop me from using it. So what I'd like to do today is talk about my retirement. You're used to my story.
I am used to it. I love your stories.
Thank
Don't be sad.
you. I'll talk about my retirement and talk a little bit about my successor. And I also want to talk about the lady that just came into the room, Alice Burnett, who's running for judge. I've got some small souvenirs for you. These aren't the actual size of the gavels we use in court.
Oh, shoot.
Well, these are trial size.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, it gets worse. It gets a lot worse.
It does.
Yes.
It's funny.
They're almost too large for toothpicks, but,
For fruit.
yeah, that's a good idea.
We're honored.
Now, you've got a wooden one, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a white one yet?
And I typically give the chairperson a wooden, sorry. You've got one downtown. You want one here as well?
No.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much.
I give these to the guardianships, and on the DD cases especially, the young people really see it, or the people seem really to like them. The first ones I gave out to a young man who's on a brotherly disabled petition. And when I handed him my wooden gavel, he smiled real big and pulled into the bag he had and pulled out a wooden spoon. He had a wooden item collection, and that was so neat. I give out samples and I give out stuffed animals. I'm probably the only court maybe in the state that has a laundry cart full of stuffed animals. And I guess I've been very pleased to have that position. My career started out in Tuscola County back in 1977. My first job out of law school was an assistant prosecutor. And one of the first cases I handled, first major cases, was involving what was then called the Carroll Regional Center. Did they call it something else now? Yeah. In that situation, there was a worker there who was excellent with the residents. He'd play guitar and entertain them. But when they misbehaved, he'd take a cigarette and put it on their skin. I seem to be drawn throughout my career to working with people who are disadvantaged, disabled, or kids. I was very happy to come to Allegan County. I've been from this region, Southwest Michigan originally, and in 1979, I came in to begin working as an assistant prosecutor. Both in Carroll and then in Allegan, I quickly learned that in that job, you deal with terrible things all the time. And it's very easy to start feeling like everybody's sick, everybody's crazy, everybody's abusing their kids, everybody's doing all kinds of terrible things. And I quickly learned that I needed to find a way to cope with that. I'm going to be totally depressed all the time, maybe come in and need some of your services. And like there are days I still do, or find a way to get through that. I quickly learned that I am so blessed to love my own life. I learned to be thankful. I mean, still some days I cried on the way home, to be honest, both in Tuscola County and here in Allegan, because there are some pretty tough situations. But for the most part, I grabbed onto the fact that, boy, darn, I've got a great life. The transition to judge was especially gratifying for me because I found another way to balance that negative side of things. And that was through adoptions, which I tend to go overboard on. And I think I had one today and I kept apologizing because I go extreme. Also, the kids I work with to celebrate when a kid gets a GED, when a kid gets a job. I stopped in the Burger King one day and out of the back room, somebody working in the kitchen came out, Judge Buck. I said, how you doing? He said, I got a job. He was working back in the kitchen. And again, to work with young people, to work with, even with when we have the mental health cases, to try to make it a positive at the end of the day is, wow, you're going to be getting out of the hospital within 10 days. Just keep going. And again, you look for those silver linings, although they're turning into gray hairs. I've loved being a probate judge, probate and family court, and it's been a wonderful experience to be here. And this has been a wonderful place to live. So I'm very thankful. My successor is Jolene Clearwater. I say she's my successor because she doesn't have an opponent. And the November election, she's running unopposed. She's worked for me for 14 years as a referee, so she's already been doing judge type things. And we're already working on the transition to get her up to speed on the things that she hasn't been working with. She'd be here tonight, but she has a very sick relative and she's been taking meals to that person. But like me, she's supporting Alice Burnell, which I'll talk about in a minute. Jolene has an excellent personality. Again, she's smart, she's young, she's energetic. Some say she's better looking than me, but I'll let you guys decide that. I got one vote for a good toast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. She's already been recognized by Michigan Supreme Court. She's been teaching judges on certain areas of the law. Again, I think that's amazing. I think we're very lucky to have her. If you've been happy at all with me, you're gonna love working with Jolene. And again, I live right across the street from her now. I moved from Otsego into just outside of Allegan. When the leaves are off the tree, I can see her house across the way. And I told her my door's always open. We're friends, and I'm sure that if she has questions, she'll reach out to me. So we're lucky there. The next thing I want to talk about then is this lady here. The late Alice Burnell. I talked to her later, found out where she was. I imagine she was trying to get here in a roundabout way.
Oh, yeah.
Let me go back for a second then and talk about how I celebrate adoptions. Have any of you been to my adoptions? Any? You did. And did I go too far?
No, we adopted a little girl. You did great.
Okay. Did I have my gavel collection?
We got stuffed animals. I did not sell the gavels. We got
Okay.
stuffed animals that day.
Well, typically what I do is, like you, I've got a gavel collection. I didn't bring all of them with me, but I did bring a couple. And what I start out with and encouraging everybody to talk and getting people to relax is to say, you know what? When you see judges on TV, they got the black robes and they got the gavel. But I said, really, that gavel is much bigger in real life. It is. So I said, you know, someday when I'm really busy, some days my arm is a little Thor. I've got this one. I've got the one, used to be the commissioners. I shouldn't tell you that. But when my courtroom, back in 2009, we turned it into a courtroom. They moved out to Dumont Lake.
Yeah.
And there was a large gavel that's, I give credit that it's the commissioners. You ain't getting it back though. Maybe for Jolene. And so I show them all the gavels, the joke, and they pick which ones they're gonna do. And I point out to them that, hey, don't use your left hand because all my gavels are right-handed. And of course, that's important to do things the right way. Again, I do have the big bopper, which I couldn't bring today. It's inflatable and it's about this big. And I bring that out at the end of the adoptions. Everybody gets a stuffed animal if they want one. Everybody takes a part. It's starting to sound familiar a little bit. I do show one other gavel. I brought one with me just to kind of let you see. I say, here's one I don't use for adoptions.
Yeah.
Okay, this is for criminal cases or for contempt. Mr. Whitty, do you want me to show you how I use this? Oh, of course, I've never used it.
I'll bring you my steak. You-
Oh, okay. You want to borrow that?
Yeah.
Okay. But again, finding the positives to build on, whether it's a kid doing well. And I guess that's why I like being a probate family court judge, because I don't just, you're guilty, you're gone, next case. I see the people, some kids I see weekly, some families I see all the time. It's a bigger struggle because it's not just not guilty, and you're on the way. It's how do I fix this situation? How do I work? How do I make this family better? How do I make this kid better? How do I help in the mental health system find solutions? And it's tough. I know you guys have a lot of issues now. We're getting pickup orders every day. Emergent situations, it's overwhelming to talk to my staff. So as I look at those issues, about 2 years ago, Alice Burnell came to me and said, you know what? She felt a calling of wanting to be a judge. And so we started talking. She was already handling cases for me in probate and family court as fiduciary. In other words, not being an advocate for one side or the other, but trying to apply the law and justice and work through and handle things. She was a trained mediator. She's certified. That means, again, she's not just advocating for one situation or another, she's trying to get a solution. I started assigning her on some pretty tough cases. Unfortunately, she had to handle a case where a man had killed his kids, killed his wife, and then killed himself. Well, there's no criminal case to deal with. Now, that would be pretty straightforward. She's got to put the pieces together for the assets. Who gets this kid's stuffed animal? Where does this money go? Who blames whom? I had trouble maintaining my composure just in the courtroom and hearing the attorneys and the people talking back and forth and the blame. Ms. Bernal handled it outside the court and inside the court. She stayed focused despite threats, despite people trying to back into her office. She was more calm than I. And to be honest, I always thought I had a pretty good judicial temperament. Mine pales in comparison to this lady. And in this day and age, as was being talked about, we need somebody who can take a step back, downplay the emotion and do the right thing. The last day I had that hearing with, on that estate, one of the grandparents was still very upset and kind of spitting and sputtering. And the other grandparents though was there crying, thanking her on the record for everything she'd done. I've seen that time and time again where she can take a step back. And I think in this day and age, we need that. The other candidates are good people. They got a lot of experience, mostly in the criminal prosecution. Really, that's where I came from too. Although my focus was more on family. Alice's focus is on family court. Half the docket is family court. It's not in the papers and not gonna be the all the headlines and everything. And that's why I somewhat apologize. 21 years of mine was spent as a prosecutor, 24 as a judge. You aren't hearing much about the judge part because it's done on a daily basis. Family issues, mental health issues, things that happen every day. That's where we need someone special. And Alice Bernal is that special person. It's real simple. ABC, Alice Bernal for Circuit Court. Please consider her as we vote. 3 are on the ballot August 6th. 2 go on to November. We need Alice. Keep moving on. And I don't mean out of the county, I mean it's in the courthouse. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you. With that, is there anyone else that would like to address the? Yes, Alice.
So first of all, I want to apologize for being late. Normally I'm at the entire meeting. So I learned a very valuable lesson tonight about upgrading my GPS. So I apologize. I was going around circles. So, and then the construction on top of it, but enough excuses. I apologize because I should have planned ahead better for all of that. So, so tonight, what I want to tell you about me, just a little bit about me, that I think that is important for this upcoming election for people to hear, is that, as Judge Buck touched on, over 50% of the docket in circuit court is family law. People think that it's criminal law and it's not. And we have 2 judges currently sitting on the bench who have extensive criminal law experience. And so coming in, what I would like to do is fill that 3rd position, the newly created position, with myself, because my focus is family law. So I think that that would nicely round out the bench so that there's people that are passionate about each area that's coming before us. I started my career in daycare originally, and that's where I started really realizing how much families go through and the importance of stability and things like that. So then actually when I became an attorney, I first thought, I don't know if I want to do family law because I don't want to see that, the breaking up of families. And so at some point though, I realized that that's where my strength was, that because it was so, family was so valuable and important to me, that if I was working with people that were separating their families, that I would be one of the last people to work with them before making that decision. And so in working with families, one of the things that I'm the most proud of is that I have many clients who have reconciled. And I have clients who have agreed to be the best parents they can be for their child. And so in working with families, then I started looking into mediation, because that's an even further extension of that, where I'm working with both couples and trying to get them to see reason and see what's best for their children and how to, I think the biggest thing is they, in that moment, need someone who can look past the emotions and the feelings and look at the next however many years of dealing with, you know, being parents for their children. And so I try to bring that voice of reason. I've also worked on many cases where, as Judge Buck touched on, where I'm doing things that are working with people, in a different role other than advocate. And sometimes that's super hard. So, I've been appointed on cases for abortion. When you have a 14-year-old girl coming before you who's seeking an abortion and her parents don't even know she's pregnant. And that was very difficult. And I said, I don't want to be on a case like that. I personally am pro-choice, or I'm sorry, pro-life. I'm a little bit nervous, pro-life. And so I didn't want to be put on a case like that and have to help someone through that to make that choice. Judge Buck said, if you want to be a judge, you need to figure this out, because there's going to be times that you're ruling according to the law and it's not according to Alice Burnell. And so I did start working on a case with a 14-year-old child. And the approach that I took was, I'm one of the last people to be with her during this process. And so, although I can't put my own beliefs on her, what I can do is talk to her about her beliefs. And then we actually came up with a very outside the box solution of having a guardian appointed to her for a limited purpose of having this abortion or considering the abortion, so that she wasn't going through it alone. And she did have an adult that was helping her through it. And so I have no idea what the outcome of that case is, but I tried to do the best that I could to do the right thing by this child, but still within the parameters of the law. And so that case alone taught me this very great lesson about, no matter what, it's the law that matters when making these decisions. I have to be within the law, and I have to be able to step aside from my own beliefs. Although I do think that it's my own beliefs, my own personal beliefs and values, that I have a lens to look through. But in the end, that's the decision that has to be made. So that's why I decided I wanted to become judge, is because I really felt this calling to do this. I feel like it's like within my strengths or wheelhouse to do this. And so I think I can make a difference. And that's what I'm trying to bring to this election. The other thing that it might be is that a long time ago, when appearing in front of Judge Buck, quickly appearing in his courtroom, had a great respect for him. And he's been a mentor to me since I came on the scene in Allegan. And he early on was giving out his gavels, and I asked for one. And that started it, because now I have a gavel collection, including one that's crocheted and bejeweled. So anyway, so I like to joke that that's where I decided to become judge, but no. So I do hope that you will consider voting for me. I have some literature, but I don't want to hold up the meeting, so afterwards I'll give it to you. But I appreciate your time, appreciate everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board this evening? I've got a smile in the back. I'm glad that you're here today.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. I wanted to ask you about some of your connections. I read about a young woman who plays the double bass, and I wondered if that was with a similar last name. Wondering if that was him.
That would be my mother.
Good for her.
She is going to be attending Western Michigan University this fall
Wow.
Good.
in the music program. So, are there any other questions? Okay. With that, is there any other ones online that would like to address the board?
Tom, would you like to address the board?
All right. With that, we will close the public comment session. Board comments. We'll go around the table. We'll start over on this side.
No, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
I'm also. Okay, with that, thank you very much for a succinct meeting this evening. There's one announcement that I have to make before we adjourn. The board workshop for this coming month is ensuring a customer focus. Megan will be sending out the email tomorrow with a link to the workshop, as well as a list of individuals that do not need to complete it. Again, please send your completed evaluations to Megan via email or give them to her at the next board meeting. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Dr. Clay to adjourn. Support by
Support.
Johnson. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion carries. Have a good evening and be careful of the heat out there.